back and bigger than ever. It's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right. Try that again. All right, welcome back. It is the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com. Bring in the entire gang as it's a little bit of a somber day. Let me get this one in. Big news. Oh, yeah, it hit. It hit just like that. Sooners, West Virginia canceled. No game this weekend. It is Thursday. I apologize that we're putting this pod out a little bit late, but I'm not sorry because if we would have put it out yesterday, it would have been yet another West Virginia pod previewing West Virginia, a game that isn't going to happen. Now it is officially canceled. The Sooners, I did reach out to some people in the administration, was told that the Sooners will not reschedule that game or try and come up with another game to play. I know a lot of fans want them to try and pick a fight with Ohio State or Texas A&M because they're not playing this weekend, but that's not going to happen from everybody I've talked to this morning. We welcome in the entire crew. Josh McQuiston. Josh, I'll say hello to you first.
Well, I feel so special to be number one. Suck on that, Eddie and Bob.
I had to turn you up there. I'm sorry. Eddie Radosevich, hopefully vacationing somewhere with his dead Soxy assortment.
I layered up yesterday, and it was perfect.
You like to layer. You're a layering fan.
I love a good layer, but yes, broadcasting live from the mountains of Steamboat, Colorado this afternoon. It's been a crazy morning, though, with everything that's gone down. Like, I woke up, and the last thing I thought was, like, OU was going to be canceled, basically. And sure enough, 2 hours later, we're sitting here, and that's what happened. So it's been an interesting day. And, like, it's fun to talk about OU scheduling somebody, but it's not going to happen in 24 hours, basically, and have to prepare for a game. Like, that's just the most nonsensical thing I've ever heard.
What is exactly? Explain it to me.
Oh, just like everybody, like, immediately saying, like, oh, you should schedule Tulsa.
Oh, okay.
You should schedule Ohio State. It's like, they're not going to schedule a game 10 days before the Big 12 championship. Now, it's kind of like what we talked about last week, though, as far as the I think we talked about it on the U40 last week. It's like Riley was hell-bent to get that Baylor game in, and we can see why. I mean, we talked about this exact scenario as far as I wouldn't trust West Virginia to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, they're not in a position to really take care of themselves in terms of being careful with COVID and stuff like that. And that's what you worried about as the season went along. Bob Prisbillo joins us. He's been writing up a storm this week, and basketball has started, so he's had his eye on that. I hope you just stopped watching at some point last night, Bob. You earned your pay last night watching that second half of Xavier, Oklahoma.
That was a rough 20 minutes, but then you see Victory Walker come in, and he played well, but yeah, that Xavier couldn't miss. There were so many flashbacks to the Final Four against Nova.
Yeah,
just
same kind of uniforms.
Move on.
I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, they're blue and white, and Xavier's got a beautiful campus. It's in a dump, but it's beautiful. In Cincinnati there, but no, yeah, I mean. Today we're sitting here, and I know I wanted to address this right off the bat. So I know a lot of people are like, well, why don't they just schedule Tulsa? Why don't they try and schedule Texas A&M? And, look, I think everybody has to keep a certain amount of perspective about this season, that it's amazing that the Big 12 almost played all of their games. When you look at the Pac-12 and the Big 10, the Big 10 has to change their rules because Ohio State couldn't get enough games in to qualify for their championship game. The Big 12 came within one decision, basically, maybe two. We'll see what happens with Texas and Kansas. But they don't want to lose these games. I mean, it was Kirk Bowles that said Bob Bowlesby told them each of these games counts for $3.5 million in TV money. So if Texas and Kansas State and OU and West Virginia doesn't play, the conference loses $7 million. And nobody wants to lose $7 million right now. It's a bad deal. So, but, what I'm saying, I guess, is you've got to at least recognize how fortunate you are to have played this many games. And look, I understand everybody wants and deserves some normalcy, and I don't begrudge anyone for wanting to fire your coach or being mad at a backup safety or being mad at Buki. Just living your lives like you normally would in a year. But you do have to at some point step back and say, look, this team made it to the Big 12 championship in a year that we'll probably never see again in college football in our lifetimes, hopefully. And just appreciate that and not worry about the college football playoff rankings and why they're not trying to schedule a game in 2 days. They could, end up traveling and having another COVID spike and affecting the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's almost like we've talked about this every week as far as just be thankful that they're playing, be thankful that they're having the opportunity. And at some point it's like, I don't know. I don't want it to be over by any means, but we are getting to the end of it to where it's like, I'm just thankful that they were even able to play, especially when you've seen here over the last month, teams basically having to cancel every other weekend or not even getting through the week. So, I mean, it's a weird year. And I mean, it is crazy to think that even when we were doing like the Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast after like the Iowa State game, even, I mean, for this team to basically pick themselves up off the floor and get to a Big 12 championship game, see the way that the defense has been playing, I think that's probably the most disappointing thing is you don't get to see the defense. But I guess in a weird, strange way, it's one less game that a Ronnie Perkins can put on tape. So, I mean, does that, like, I don't know, force his hand to maybe come back? I don't know. I guess I'm trying to look for positives out of
he
kind
could
of a
not, by the way,
situation.
Yeah, he could not have said, I'm leaving for the NFL any stronger than he did with that statement about wanting to put more down on film.
Yeah. It's just weird. And, we'll get into, I'm sure, what was said yesterday with Alex Grinch and that group of the defensive players that we talked to, and Trey Norwood, Brian Asamoah, and Ronnie Perkins. But I was just sitting there and it was almost, I don't know, I guess because they're actually doing it on the field. And Bob, you wrote about this yesterday, but because they're out on the field and actually forcing turnovers, getting stops, the numbers match up. It's like, it definitely feels like something has changed. I don't know. Maybe they're speaking more confidently about it. But, I mean, I think you can officially say that there has been a culture change within the Oklahoma defense. And I don't know. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it all had to start with the pass rush because that is just sped up everything. That's sort of what Grinch was saying is if everything's sped up by like a half second and quarterback is having to go faster, receivers having to look for the ball quicker, mistakes are going to be made. And OU, now that our mistakes being made, at least now OU's making them count, making them pay for it. That's what, I mean, even in Ames, they had all those chances. They couldn't come down with any of them. But now we're actually seeing what happens when one piece works together, how it's going to help the other pieces work too.
By the way, one other thing I didn't mention is, trying to schedule a game and hurriedly this week, like, why go in and get yourself beat up this weekend? And everybody said, oh, you should play Tulsa. They're right next to you. You really think Tulsa wants to play OU and get beat up by a team before they go and play for a conference championship against Cincinnati next week? No, they're not going to want to play that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a non-starter. It's just not going to happen. I would have loved it, though. It would have been fun.
Well, Ohio State would have been fun. Texas A&M would have been fun.
Oh, that would have been badass.
For you, Tulsa, yeah, maybe that's a starter just because it's Tulsa in your history. And you probably would have said something after a win and gotten blocked again.
Yeah, I mean, probably, but that's what the dance is all about.
We're 2 weeks away from maybe really playing the Aggies. In
sure.
A bowl game.
In the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, it's going to be really strange, guys, over the next, I guess, kind of week and a half to 2 weeks because Big 12 championship so late, it rolls right into a bowl game. I mean, and obviously, we'll have plenty of time to break down what's going to happen in the Iowa State game. But with both of those teams not playing this week, I don't know. I, for some reason, just looking at it, and I know that Ronnie didn't play up in Ames, but This game almost feels like a 2017 TCU Big 12 championship to me. I'm not saying that OU's just going to kick the shit out of them, but I don't know. I could see
you kind of are though.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that game was a laugher, man. I mean, Baker just torched them, and that was when you had the scoop and score early by Caleb Kelly.
Yep.
I don't necessarily disagree with Eddie, because I mean guys, just look at what you're betting on here. I mean, like, if it's coming down to decisions like between Brock Purdy and Spencer Rattler, I'll take Spencer Rattler 8 days a week. Brock Purdy, at some point, living under the pressure that we're talking about Oklahoma putting quarterbacks under right now, do we really think Brock Purdy's going to hold up in that? I just don't see it.
That pressure, and he still gave chances to Pat Fields.
Yeah,
and
guys, and we talk about how poorly Oklahoma played in that game. They're a Theo Weiss deep ball catch from probably winning that game. I'm not probably strong, but like having the lead in the last 3 or 4 minutes.
Well, yeah, when Isaiah Thomas forced that sack fumble, I mean, they had all the momentum in the world. That's where they should have turned around and won that football game, and it just offensively it just didn't happen for them.
And they had the kickoff return.
The kickoff return killed them in that game, and then if I remember right, right after the strip sack, didn't they, the first play, wasn't there a hold or something? And it seemed like they lived in 1st and 20, 2nd and 17 that entire game. That 2-week stretch there with Kansas State and Iowa State was just bizarre.
Well, it was the second half where the offense just disappeared. I mean, that was what happened in Kansas and Kansas State and Iowa State. And then Breece Hall got going in the run game, and it just controlled the football game in the second half. And OU was settling for field goals instead of touchdowns. And, I mean, it is going to be interesting because you'll have Ramondre Stevenson, you'll have Ronnie Perkins, and really it's going to come down to, can you control Breece Hall in the running game, I think. Because if you can put it on Brock Purdy's shoulders, he's kind of proven that he doesn't handle that all that well. When he has to be, like a Oklahoma-type quarterback, that's not him.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest question mark with OU, or how OU defends Iowa State, will be, what are they going to do with those tight ends? And, Carey, you kind of insinuated this week, maybe you could fit somewhere a Robert Barnes, a bigger body out there.
Yeah, I don't know how much he will really be in the plans. I think it takes a lot of pressure off this coaching staff that everybody gets this year free. So I think the players, somebody like Robert Barnes who comes in, struggles, goes to the bench. He's been good on special teams. And now he got a taste of playing. He probably doesn't want to give it up. He can handle that a little bit better, knowing that he's got a free year. By the way, I want to thank you guys so much for your support of our sponsor of the Unofficial 40 podcast, Dead Soxy. Dead Soxy ran a special promotion after the Bedlam game, giving you 41% off because that's how many points OU scored. That was a great success. And we've got another promotion for you guys because it's Christmas, it's holidays. You got to shop quickly if you want to get some special gifts for those closest to you. And Dead Soxy is a great holiday gift. Just enter the promo code HOLIDAYPRO, and you'll get 35% off site-wide on your next Dead Soxy order. Great pairs of socks. Eddie and I both wear ours all the time. Just fantastic socks, and make great gifts as well. You can do the crimson and cream colorways if you want to do that. But the Holiday Pro, that's 35% off your entire order site-wide, and it's a great deal. Great company to work with. Great that you guys are supporting them. Can't appreciate them enough for being sponsors of the Unofficial 40. So go check them out, Dead Soxy, DeadSoxy.com. And remember, guys, stay soxy. Okay, so let me fill you guys in on what is going on. We just took a little bit of a break because Lincoln Riley had a Zoom call with the beat writers this afternoon. It's kind of our small group that we usually get to do every week, but this year we really haven't got to do it a whole lot. And Lincoln Riley drops a bombshell in his press briefing with the beat writers. I'm just going to play it for you. First off, Barry Trammell starts us out, and then Garen Emig from the Tulsa World follows it up.
I was just going to say Ohio State's free on Saturday.
That's what I was going to ask him about. What if Ryan Day called you as soon as we were done here?
And we would play.
Seriously?
Yeah, no doubt we would play. We would love to play. I mean, I know wanting to play and actually being able to make that happen, I understand are two different things.
Right.
There's so much to go through. You're talking about different leagues that are doing testing different. I mean, playing a game right now is it's never simple, but it's not quite as simple as it used to be. So, I mean, from a competitive standpoint, shoot, we would love to play. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But I mean, that's the feasibility of doing something on that late notice. You know, with all the procedures and all that, I don't see it happening.
Boy, what does Jason Kersey want? Let's see here. Jason Kersey now joins us as we're recording the podcast.
All right, see you later. Sorry.
We're talking basketball, Kersey. Get in here.
He says
Sorry.
we're talking basketball, women's basketball. It's a women's basketball report now live with Jason Kersey from The Athletic.
Am I actually on the podcast?
Yes, we're recording right now. We had to stop the podcast for Lincoln's Zoom, and then we're restarting now.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry to interrupt. I'll just wait to listen to what
The
you guys have
world
to
wants
say
to
about
know what you wanted to interrupt the pod.
It's not important, and I can't say it on the pod, so.
Are you
Jason,
reporting that OU and Ohio State are going to play on Saturday?
Eddie wants to know if you're reporting that OU and Ohio State are playing Saturday.
You know, I can't scoop myself, you know. That's coming.
Holy shit.
Uh-oh. What?
All right, hey, I've taken up way too much of your time already. I'll talk to you later.
All right, later. I love how the people who call just become a part of the show now. They have no choice. If you call me, I can't wait till we get a telemarketer. And so I can just screw with them. The bad thing is you guys can't hear, so that just kind of sucks. But, yeah, I relayed all your information. So what the hell? Lincoln Riley says...
I'd like to play in the Masters next year, too, and that's not going to happen. I mean, that's basically what I got out of it. It doesn't good to say no.
There was a huge caveat there that he included in the we would play. Sure.
Oh, you think the Twitter.com is going to...
No! They want to play.
Break that down?
I just saw Dusty Dvorak doing the LFG. Like, he was supposed to call the West Virginia game. He's free. He could call that game.
I'm sure that he would want to. I mean, it would be great. It just like the logistics of it, it would never be able to happen. I mean, I think it's one thing if Lincoln Riley wants to say it. It doesn't no good too saying that they wouldn't want to play. He'd look like a pussy if he did. But like now it's like, yeah, sounds great. I'd like to play in all the majors next year in the golf, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I am just looking at the mentions now, going absolutely apeshit on Twitter since we put this out there.
I'm a touch concerned that Eddie finds him playing in the Masters and OU playing Ohio State similar.
I tweeted this.
Yeah, because it's not going to happen.
I tweeted this 1:37, so this was 10 minutes ago. It's already up to 91 retweets and 446 likes with 98 quote tweets.
If there's anything that I've learned over the last 365 days, it's that people love living in a fantasy land.
This is glorious. I mean, this is not going to stop anytime soon.
There will be people leading all the way up to Saturday morning probably asking, are they going to play today? No!
Oh, please let them play. Please let them play. Please let them play. I want to play this back when it happens.
Could you play it at like Lucas Oil Stadium? Just meet? Is that's not in the middle? I guess Kansas City? Would Kansas City
I was
be in
thinking
the
Kansas City. Yeah. Or they'd probably both love it in St. Louis as
that's
much as they're
lot
recruiting
of,
in St. Louis right now.
That's a lot of logistics to get around, though. A neutral site game in 2 days with COVID, that's probably impossible. It's going to have to be, like, it's not happening, but if it did happen, it would have to be at somebody's stadium. Don't we agree?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean, it just is. It's impossible.
But neither of those teams are going to want to get beat up before their championship game, although Ohio State's won't be as difficult because I don't think Northwestern's that good.
Was Ohio State hosting Michigan?
That's a good question that I don't know the answer to.
Because that would be your easiest way. If they were supposed to be hosting and OU's supposed to be on the road.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt OU would have to travel there to play.
Then you just keep it as is. It's supposed to be Buckeyes, Michigan at 11, OU, West Virginia at 11. Instead, it's OU and the Buckeyes at 11.
How's the Scoop handling this right now?
That game was supposed to be in Columbus, by the way.
There you go.
The first
just tell
response,
those stadium workers to come back.
The first response on the Sooner Scoop is, "Damn it, Ryan Day! If you're going to take a Mecca, at least fight us for it."
Now,
That's
subscribe
amazing.
to that idea. Like the winner of that game gets a Mecca.
That's a great idea.
I
now
see
I'm kinda,
no downfall
I'm
in
kind of
this.
turning around. I kind of like that idea.
I'll
Now
be
that-
honest. I was stunned how negative Eddie was on this idea.
Now that human bets are involved, you're down.
Well, it's just, like
Bets
somebody's
for people.
life. Yes. I mean, this should be right up my alley, but it's kind of bozo world thinking that people think that would it's even remotely possible that they could play. It's not going to happen. It's 3 o'clock on a Thursday. They can't turn that around that quickly.
What? Coastal Carolina?
Yeah, but that was on like
a Wednesday.
Can you divert that charter to Columbus that was going to Morgantown? I mean, they already booked the charter.
There you go. We're making this happen.
By the way,
Sooners need we need some kind of title sponsor on this game if they're going to do it.
someone wants to start a GoFundMe on the Crimson Corner. I don't know that they need a GoFundMe.
I'm going to start a rumor that Ohio State refuses to do it because of Baker Mayfield's actions in 2017.
I was wondering, is Baker going to be on the sideline with the flag, just waving it?
Baker should be like the president. He should ask for a presidential address where he goes and challenges Ryan Day to a fight. Declares war on Ohio State and dares them to play his Oklahoma Sooners.
I love it. Just the anarchy that Ohio would become as the Browns and Ohio State have to battle one another.
What is Joe C. doing right now, by the way? You think he's just like, what is my football coach doing?
He's stabbing needles underneath his fingernails.
It's a win-win situation for Riley, though.
Right.
He says, yeah, they want to play. That gets everybody excited. If he would have said the opposite, it would just be a shit show anyways.
I agree.
Is it out there like Texas A&M fans are begging to play Oklahoma? Is that what's going on? Or is it just the other way around, or is it equal? Is there momentum for Texas A&M? Because outside of today, no one's ever really brought them up.
Who?
A&M. I guess it's just because they're available and they're high up in the rankings and it would help Oklahoma. And they're regionally around.
I don't know. I just think everybody's just throwing stuff out there. I mean, at the end of the day, people just want to watch football. I don't think it matters who.
By the way, there are no fans at Ohio State, so it would just be an empty stadium that you're playing in.
So bring them to Norman and be like, don't be pussies. It's 15,000 people. Just nothing to be scared of here.
And what if a Mecca came back though, and then Ryan Day was like, nope, we're not playing.
Well, I mean, if he's going to be offered his tribute, I mean, he's got to be there somewhere, right?
His tribute. You read those books, didn't you?
No, Tiffany did. I watched the movie not long ago. I guess that's where that came from.
I do not enjoy.
Will you be able to get
the
a
Hunger
credential
Games.
in time?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, it probably
Let's
just
figure
have
this
to
out.
be no media. I mean,
Oh, horse shit. I will drive up there and I'll throw Bob over a fence if that's what I've got to do. We will be covering that.
we know the layout of the place.
Exactly.
Right.
All we got to do is get behind.
We know where the
Get
visitors'
in.
locker room is and all that stuff.
You know, TV rights could be a problem. Hey, we could live stream it on YouTube, our Scoop channel on YouTube. It'd be our first big start. I love it.
Was this going to be the big noon game? Ohio State, Michigan?
Yes.
Okay. So Fox probably has the rights to this. We're guessing.
I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah. Now let's just keep connecting bullshit dots. Let's just keep going all the way down.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun watching the chaos, but other than that, I would be shocked if anything actually happened.
Agreed.
Shocked.
Let's push for Sunday. Let's push for Sunday. You can't do it Saturday. I get it. Let's push for Sunday.
Are you going to push the Big 12 back today, too? You can't.
Yeah, OU wants to play Ohio State on a short rest for the Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
I have a better chance of winning the lottery today than OU and Ohio State playing.
I just want to know, what does Lincoln Riley do after he leaves that room after we interviewed him? Does he call, Grinch
laughing.
or does he yeah, he's laughing his ass off. And I'm sure Houck is Mike Houck, SID.
He probably walked into Drew Hill's office and was like, "You'll never believe what I just said to you." They're probably laughing about it.
Yeah, now Ryan Day's active on Twitter, isn't he? Let's go see what his mentions
look makeup on his face.
I don't think he wears makeup. He just has rosy cheeks. Let's see. What is his... Somebody tell me what his handle is.
Something weird. It's like Coach Ryan Day or something like that.
No, it's Ryan Day Time.
Oh, okay. Let's check out Ryan Day Time's mentions here. See where we are.
Oh, he hasn't done anything.
Stop running. Rattler wants to plant the flag in the shoe. Ryan Day Time.
Little what's up? Don't be a coward. And then the very next one's a quote tweet. Ryan Day Time coward. Wow.
You're welcome, Ryan. We were really glad that you're getting all this shit aimed at you. Oh,
he's like, what happened? Where did this start?
Oh, he got up like 20 minutes or 10 minutes ago. He's like, who the f*** is Soonerscoop.com?
Oh, my God. That is just too beautiful. All right. Well, no West Virginia this weekend. Look, no Ohio State. I mean, I hate to be that. You hate to make any kind of, declaration like this. Because, this could become, this has got to be lead Scott Van Pelt tonight, doesn't it?
Seriously?
ESPN is going to demand video from this Zoom call that we were on.
I don't know. I completely think it's more of a joke than it is anything else. I don't think he was serious at all.
But someone said seriously, honest. Eddie.
Do you want to hear it one more time?
Someone said seriously, Eddie. Seriously?
It's just impossible. It almost pisses me off thinking about it.
I'm going to play it one more time just to see if I can get you more triggered. Here it is.
Let's just go say Ohio State's free on Saturday.
That's what I was going to ask him about. What if Ryan Day called you as soon as we were done here?
And we would play.
Seriously?
Seriously?
Yeah, no doubt we would play. We would love to play. I know wanting to play and actually being able to make that happen, I understand are two different things.
Right.
There's so much to go through. You're talking about different leagues that are doing testing different. Playing a game right now it's never simple, but it's not quite as simple as it used to be. So, from a competitive standpoint, we would love to play. There's no doubt about it, but that's the feasibility of doing something on that late a notice, with all the procedures and all that. I don't see it happening.
That's a lot of backtracking from we would play. I will say that.
Can we when you cut this later, cut all that makes Eddie sound right out of it if you could. Like let's just go with the initial answer.
Just end it like right here.
Yeah, no doubt we would play. We would love to play.
Bam. That's all he said. I didn't hear anything else.
That's already out there. You know.
It's John Wayne, Lincoln Riley. I mean, every once in a while he goes John Wayne.
That was an I'm your Huckleberry kind of moment. I liked it.
You think it was a Doc Hollywood?
Oh, yeah.
He's Doc Hollywood, Lincoln Riley?
Doc Holliday. Let's not confuse him with Michael J. Fox.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's some weird imagery. Although Michael J. Fox as Doc Holliday, that could have been fantastic. Don't make a joke about the trigger. Don't make a joke about the trigger.
Wouldn't be as good with a gun in his hand.
He would accidentally shoot a lot of people.
I was like, I don't know if I should make this joke. I'm not gonna. Eddie goes right for it.
Wyatt Earp would have been a much shorter movie. which the Kevin Costner version needed to be.
I know people that swear that's the better.
I like
one.
it. I like it better, but I also like Dances with Wolves, and I didn't really. The Postman is pretty bad, and Waterworld is awful. That's unwatchable.
My dad likes Waterworld.
Ugh.
He and I'm like, he's like the only human being I've ever met that likes Waterworld.
Just Dennis Hopper's way too over the top. All right, we mentioned Emeka Egbuka. Is that right? Did I say it right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
As far as we know, yeah.
Yeah, fair. That's what we understand.
Yes. And, I mean, Josh has not made people happy with some of his recruiting news in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
You can check it out on Sooner Scoop on Crimson Corner. Josh gives you his inside nuggets each and every day as they come in. And we're headed towards signing day, which is coming up on Wednesday. And, Bob, I'll just let you kind of take things over here before you got to get out and handle recruiting with Josh.
Well, Josh, let's start. Signing day is Wednesday. We got two decisions coming up Friday. First, you got Remington Strickland, the center from the Houston area, looking like he'll choose between OU and the Aggies. And then at 7 o'clock, Egbuka making his choice. Looks like it's down to the Buckeyes and the Sooners. Where's OU going? Are they 0 for 2, 1 for 2, or 2 for 2 when Friday night's done?
Guys, I want to start this. This is almost like my little. I'm going to give you a little psychology here, guys. Just look toward the future. Don't think about Friday. Just try to think there are better days ahead, because I like where Oklahoma is for almost everyone that is not deciding on Friday. But, you know, I put last week in the scoop, and I had started to hear some word kind of middle of last week that Remington Strickland was probably not going to be in this class. And it just sounds like, you know, kid grew up an A&M fan. It's just one of his dreams to play there. Like, you know, good for him. He's going to go there. That's my full expectation, is that's his end result. Emeka Egbuka, this has been an interesting week. I can't decide where I have to start with all of this, because I had felt for months, and I've talked about it on the pod, if he took that trip, OU had a chance. And then almost immediately as he leaves campus, I talked to a source that's like, he's coming. This is going to happen. And I fully admit it's a source that is usually right, but has a tendency to optimism. So I put something on the board Sunday, was kind of like, hey, guys, what I'm hearing sounds great, but I want to check around some more. So I check around some more. And then on Monday, it's not just Oklahoma people sounding good. I'm talking to Ohio State sources that are like, this doesn't sound right. This all sounds bad. And then about that same time, Egbuka announces that he's announcing on Friday, moving up his announcement date. That's almost invariably something a kid does when they are picking a school they just visited. Like, I mean, I would bet you 95% of the time. So it all felt right. And I put in my forecast. I'd never had one to Ohio State because, like I said, I thought he would take this trip, and I thought OU had a chance at that point. And I went there, and then, I mean, within 24 hours, it was a sea change. Ohio State all of a sudden started sounding better. Oklahoma didn't sound as good. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to jump on this. Waited another 24 hours, and it was just kind of more of the same. No one's confident. I haven't talked to anyone that's like, yep, it's Ohio State. It's just most likely right now. So if he picks Oklahoma on Friday night, I don't think anyone should be stunned, but it's definitely not what I'm expecting to happen.
Do you think it was a case of the high from the visit wearing off, or is it just too hard to speculate as to what really changed between Monday and Tuesday?
I think it's got to be, and I take full responsibility for not really thinking of the post-visit high, because that's something we talk about all the time, and it's real. And you wonder if it's more real this year with so few visits happening. Like, the visits are even bigger, even though they're so marginal in the way they can be done, because the school can't have anything to do with it. But that's what I think happened here, because it sounds like, I know he talked to Lincoln Riley and Dennis Simmons on Sunday after he got back home. I had no indication that didn't go well. Everything sounded right. And then it sounds like he sat down with Ohio State and everything kind of went back to status quo. And again, I don't think he's given Ohio State any heads up like, oh, yeah, okay, it's going to be you guys. Or I know he hasn't told Oklahoma no, but it seems like the wave of momentum just kind of started to recede.
It seems like it's one of those. It just seems like it's one of those two that, like, it's very obvious that his relationship with Ohio State was much longer than Oklahoma's relationship. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, this is a kid that, not only does he have a longer standing relationship with Ohio State, especially as a more prevalent part of his recruitment. Oklahoma offered him early, but they weren't really in the thick of this until maybe February or March. I mean, that's when you really felt like things were starting to pick up. But
Caleb Williams.
Yeah, that's a part of it for sure. The thing I will say, though, is also this is a guy that trains in the Seattle area, does so with some guys that have sent players to Ohio State, and there's a lot of familiarity there. I mean, from the Seattle area, G. Scott last year, another elite top 50 type wide receiver, went to Ohio State from the Seattle area. I don't know what their relationship is like, but it's certainly better than any wide receiver in Oklahoma's room. So it's one of those things where there were a lot of things that Oklahoma was fighting against here, and I'm pretty impressed they got as close as they did, because, like, I can tell you, even as of last night, I was still hearing Ohio State people saying things like, I can't believe it's this close. Like, I can't believe it's come to this, because he was dead set for Ohio State in everybody's estimation for a year now.
So if that's a OU Buckeye battle that might tend toward Ohio State, is Tristan Lee the opposite, or this one actually still trending toward the Sooners?
Yeah, I still really like where Oklahoma is with Tristan Lee. Everything I was told, the visit went extremely well. I know, again, upon getting home, he'd already talked to Bill Bedenbaugh. There was no indication that anything wasn't just how they wanted it to be. And I felt like Oklahoma has been in front for Tristan Lee for probably a couple of months now. I really think they've kind of taken the lead. Funny enough, since his second trip to LSU, in that matter of a couple of weeks where he went down to Baton Rouge a couple of times, and it felt like LSU was the one school that maybe could surprise Oklahoma, or not surprise, because they were the leader in a lot of people's estimation, but it felt like they were the school that could take this away from Oklahoma. And just talking to people, that's not the feeling I get. That's not what I understand is going to happen. Now, he will go to Florida this weekend. That's kind of a wild card. I mean, maybe something crazy happens there. SEC recruiting, just strange stuff can happen. But he's never mentioned Florida prominently. And so this would be pretty wild for a kid that I think is very considered in the things he says. He's not one that gets too caught up in the wave of emotion or anything. And if that's the case, I just struggle to think it won't be Oklahoma.
So now that gets us to signing day itself. You got a couple decisions, even one that's not on the day, but you got Savion Byrd on Wednesday, Bryce Foster on Friday. We might be able to talk about more about Foster next week. But with Byrd, I mean, is it OU, SMU? Is there any other wild cards or any other scenario that you can see happening?
I think it's I can't get past OU or SMU. I mean, like if that's kind of what we have to decide on, I think that's what it comes down to. And I know people will say, well, home run, that's OU, it's all over here. And normally you're right, but this is a kid that, again, his head coach, Reginald Samples, is the father of an assistant on the SMU staff, Rashad Samples, who actually played at Oklahoma State and, coached at Texas for a time. So there is a lot of connection there that gives SMU a chance in this. I mean, I would say it's probably 55-45 Oklahoma, 60-40 Oklahoma, but it's not out of hand. I mean, it's not out of question that Oklahoma could lose this recruitment. So what's interesting, though, is I can't seem to determine how upset Oklahoma is going to be by that. They know Savion Byrd is a tremendously talented guy. They also know he has a lot of work to do. This isn't a guy that's going to be ready next year. This is not Andrew Rame that they're going to be talking about ready to compete at 3 different positions day one of his freshman year. That's not Savion Byrd. But the upside is elite if they can get him there. So it's an interesting deal where I feel like OU absolutely wants him, and I think some of the talk that they've cut him or they're walking away, I think that's premature. I don't think that's happened. At the same time, if he does go elsewhere, I don't think OU is going to be mad that they have a scholarship to go use on a grad transfer, like a Chris Murray type situation, someone else they like at the position that maybe can help them and really be a guy that competes next year.
That's going to be my next question. Do you think that any backup plans will come into play for the early signing period, or would it have to wait till February if it even happens?
I think if anything happens, it will be in February. I've heard nothing of any real possibilities of something that would happen here late in the game. Now, I do know there are a couple of guys that Oklahoma is keeping an eye on, as far as the offensive line goes, if they miss out on somebody. And I've mentioned a couple of them in Scoop, one of them being a kid named Terrence Rankle, that is Oklahoma, like I said, has had some contact with him, kid out of Ohio that's currently committed to Pittsburgh. And like I said, Oklahoma likes him, but I don't know that they're ready at this point to go all in or anything like that. They'll have to kind of see what happens. But this is a guy that Oklahoma's kept an eye on, and we will see, in January, if they were to miss out on Byrd, maybe they go that direction. But at the same time, I think it's always going to be measured against what shows up in the transfer market, which I think we all accept is going to go just wild in the next 3 weeks of our lives. And there's going to be some players out there that OU may want to say, hey, we'd rather have you that has played at the college level. We know we liked you as a recruit. They have a little more information, a few more data points to go off of, and they may move in that direction if I was going to guess.
So maybe be on the watch to see if Rankle signs Wednesday too?
That absolutely. And I have been told, should Oklahoma want to get involved with him, he is very amenable to that possibility. So my guess is he won't sign. And I think if he doesn't sign, it tells you what he's thinking. If he, obviously if he does sign, I think Oklahoma probably tells him, and there's a few other schools. It's not just OU. I know Ohio State's involved with him as well. And there's kind of been a feeling that wherever Tristan Lee ends up, the other one may offer this kid. So we'll see what happens, but he's an interesting kid to kind of watch and see what takes place.
What is max numbers in your mind?
As I look at it, it's tough for me to get past about 22, maybe 23 in the right situation. And you look at it right now, OU has 15 commitments. I like where they are with Bryce Foster. I like where they are with Camar Wheaton. Jordan Gilbert still a possibility. Who else? I'm forgetting a couple
Tristan
here.
Lee.
I know I am. Tristan Lee, obviously, and then Savion Byrd. So in that case, you're looking at 20. So Oklahoma has some room there if they want to move around. But like I said, I keep hearing 2 or 3 players in the portal. Like, I mean, I think Oklahoma knows this could get really interesting. And guys, an interesting rumor about one of the big names in the transfer portal this week has been Eric Gilbert. I talked to someone in Georgia who we all know that had kind of said, hey, man, if he enters the portal, keep an eye on that, because he has told several people that Oklahoma was actually his second choice to LSU and not Georgia. So we'll see. I mean, like, I don't know that that's going to happen, but Eric Gilbert is a tremendously talented guy, and I can guarantee you OU would find a spot for him.
And then to kind of close out this section, me and Eddie watched Talon Shetron one more time, not score a touchdown, but you had better luck. So kind of take us through what you saw Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, Thursday I went and saw Cody Jackson, the 2021 wide receiver commitment from Richmond Foster in the Houston area, take on Jaden Blue, the number 1 running back in the country in 2022 that Oklahoma has offered. Talking to some people around Blue, I got the impression that Texas and LSU are going to be tough to beat there. We'll kind of keep an eye on that. But, you know, with OU doing what they're doing with Sawchuk and Raleek Brown and some of the other guys that they can kind of make some decisions on, I don't think they're too upset about that. But, I mean, Jaden Blue's an outstandingly talented guy. I mean, that's a guy they would like to have in their class. But if a guy is still serious about Texas right now, it makes you wonder if there's anything you could do to turn that away. Like, I mean, you know, what more do you need to see that Texas is probably not going to get you where you want to go? And then, you know, same kind of story with LSU. I mean, they've got their own problems right now. So we'll see how that story evolves. But looked great. I mean, guy made a lot of big explosive plays, very natural runner. Not the biggest guy, but very good between the tackles in spite of that. I really has nice vision, is very patient. I just like the way he works. Cody Jackson, you guys, you know, you had your streak continue with Talon Shetron. I got to break mine with Cody Jackson. Cody Jackson had like 150 yards receiving, had a couple touchdowns, really did all that I had hoped to see him do in his career, and it took me 4 games to see it, but like finally got to see him kind of do his thing. And I think, you know, watching him that night, there wasn't anything that different he was doing. He got a little better service. He got a little better opportunity to make some plays. And I think when you look at it from that perspective, it makes you wonder, you know, maybe we're being too hard on him. Maybe at Oklahoma, when he's playing with nothing but elite passers, it's going to look very different for him. And I think it will be better because what's the hardest thing for high school quarterbacks to complete? The vertical passing game. Well, what's Cody Jackson's hallmark? It's going downfield. So, you know, you understand some of it. And then on Friday, went up to Dallas to finally get my chance to see Jordan Hudson. And, man, I don't know if I came into my expectations were too low or what it was, but I really liked what I saw from Jordan Hudson. I kind of had felt like he was kind of the third wheel in this wide receiver class with Shetron, right. You know, being an elite guy, Luther Burden, almost everybody's number 1 wide receiver in the country. And Hudson kind of felt like the other guy, but, man, watching him, I really liked him. I saw, and I don't know if it's just because these are the kind of guys OU recruits, but I keep seeing guys, I'm like, he kind of reminds me of Sterling Shepard. And that's kind of what I got in Jordan Hudson. Now, I don't think his hands are as elite as Sterling's are, but same kind of body type, moves very similarly, bigger guy than I thought he was going to be. 6 foot, you know, maybe a little more. Moves around really well. And I thought the thing that I came away with, kind of like Jalil Farouk in 2021, if Oklahoma wants to move him to corner, I don't have any problem with that. He had a nice pick, very physical guy. I mean, he's one of those guys that makes a hit and he stands over people. Like he likes playing defense. It's not just a thing where, oh, I'm a good athlete, I got to go do it. He plays that role and plays it well. So I came away much more impressed with Jordan Hudson than I had anticipated.
When is the last time? I mean, DJ Graham might be the first athlete in a long time that just became a great defensive back at Oklahoma. Unless you
what do you mean?
I mean, you have to go prior.
I'm in love with this kid.
For sure.
I mean, Are you talking about a kid that like wasn't really a DB and they just kind of turned him into a really good one?
Well, the guy that it was kind of unknown coming in. Like he might be an offensive guy, he might be a defensive guy.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. I mean, because you couldn't argue, but like Reggie Smith comes to mind, but it was always known Reggie was going to be a DB. He just happened to be a really good offensive player at Santa Fe.
He was still a great special teams player.
Yeah. Yeah, Reggie was he's one of those guys I think that people kind of forget how good he was because it was such a good era where there were so many good defenders. Do you know what Reggie Smith would look like on the defensive from like 2016 to 2018? He'd be otherworldly compared to what they were rolling out there.
And you almost sound with Grinch like that he's still fighting that fight with Graham to get him to fully commit to it. Like Graham's just doing well because that's where he's at, but it's not where his passion's at. But it's getting closer, it feels like, to him accepting that he can.
He's going to be a first-round pick.
Yeah,
he's going to be a first-round pick, and he's like, screw this, I'm playing receiver, Browns.
I like catching the football.
That's like
you had 12 picks.
The basketball player that thinks he's going to go to the NBA when he's 6'2" or something because he practices a lot. It's like, dude, open your eyes a little bit. You're about to make a bunch of money.
Hey, it's like Jalen Redmond. Guy thought he was a basketball player until like his junior year of high school, and finally Midwest City was like, listen, you're 6'3", 230, and are the strongest guy on the basketball floor. Come play some football. And, that worked out okay for him.
The thing that I've taken away from DJ Graham, too, is he looks so comfortable out. It doesn't look foreign to him.
That is what shocks me about this whole thing, Eddie, because he was a guy, I admit, and I think I put it out on Twitter during the game the other night, I wasn't sold on him. Like, I thought he was one of my real questions in the class because, A, I didn't think he would buy in at corner, and it sounds like that's fair, but he's so good it just doesn't even matter. Like, I mean, he's just that talented. And I thought him being the big, long-legged, long-strider kid that he is, I thought he would struggle a little bit, but I don't know how, as an OU fan, with Woody Washington and DJ Graham as freshman corners, who can be freshmen again next year, how do you feel better about your cornerback situation? I mean, that's the two best young corners this program has produced in a long time.
Shit, yeah, and you throw, depending on how he comes back from his injury, I haven't heard anything that would lead me to believe otherwise, but like, I'm really excited to see how Justin Harrington fits into this whole thing. Can you imagine if he was playing safety right now?
Oh, absolutely. And Josh Eaton in his small moments, he's looked like a football player. I mean, like, there is promise there in that secondary. If they can figure out something at safety, like I said, you get Jordan Gilbert, maybe I still think even with Jordan Gilbert, they'll still look for another guy from the transfer market. But, boy, if you could get a guy that can really help you to go along with Justin Harrington, your safety issues could be fixed in a year, which is just crazy to think about.
Anything new with Jaden Woodby since we're talking safety?
No, I floated that out when that came out to a couple of people, and I didn't get much back. Like, it just didn't sound all that good. And I actually had someone reach out to me and say, hey, there's some real talk kind of within the Florida State program that he's just soft. Like, he just doesn't want to do it. And obviously, if there's any one word that I think Alex Grinch would more cringe at reading, it's soft. But secondarily, like, I kind of asked the guy, and it goes both ways. It's how you want to look at it. Is that just kind of that program right now? Like, that's just and do you want to invite a guy that is part of that program into your locker room? That program seems poisonous right now. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, do I want to bring that into my locker room and maybe, have a problem where I don't have one for a guy that has far from, lit the world on fire in Tallahassee?
Yeah, and Lincoln doesn't need to take on character issues. I mean, he can pick and choose. It's not like they're desperate right now.
Exactly. I mean, and you used to say on defense you'd feel differently, but the way they're starting to go, no, man, leave it be.
Isn't it kind of funny, like all the programs that have been down and you thought were maybe trying to turn it around. It's gotten worse at the Florida States of the world, at Texas. Like, I don't know what's going on at Michigan, but I mean, that seems like a bad situation. It's just kind of funny how that's worked out.
I think it goes back to having some perspective, because you knew that COVID was going to take some programs down, like just dealing with it. And to me, it probably says a lot about your coach that he didn't handle it very well. But it's just one of the, like, who is built to handle this stuff? I think some of it's luck, but I don't know. I mean, Jim Harbaugh does not seem like a guy built to handle COVID. None of the Harbaughs seem built for that.
Well, I mean, the human body craves contact, so
and milk and steak.
Well, I don't disagree with him on those two.
But every day,
I mean, they're basically rewriting his contract so they can get a smaller buyout, aren't they? Like, the extension would be less money, but the buyout would come down.
Yeah, I haven't even, to be honest with you, I haven't even paid that much attention to it.
And I guess there's been NFL teams that have reached out to Harbaugh. I mean, hiring in the NFL is the weirdest shit ever, because I saw Marvin Lewis's name thrown out there yesterday as a guy that should get a second opportunity. He was terrible.
Yeah.
Well, no.
And
Marvin Lewis went to multiple. He took the Bengals to multiple playoffs. Like, he didn't win any games, but he's better than a lot of coaches.
He got a lot of time to be average, though.
He did. That's fair. But I mean, built good raw. I mean, like, I would say, if anything, he underachieved. But he did a lot more in the NFL than a lot of guys who've gotten multiple chances.
He wasn't like when they were on Hard Knocks. He didn't embarrass himself on that. I mean, he seemed pretty put together.
I would think as a college coach, he'd be interesting.
Now, Hugh Jackson's a moron.
Jackson.
Yeah. All right, Bob's got to take off. We're going to handle it the rest of the way.
I'm going to lead the basketball segment, so I'm ready.
There's no need to talk about that Xavier game. We've done all the Xavier talk that's going to happen. TCU.
They just hit another 3.
TCU got hammered too, didn't they? Last night? They lost like Providence, like big.
Well, I mean, nobody's embarrassing themselves like Bruce Weber in Kansas State right now, getting beat by Fort Hays State.
I don't know. Is it not more embarrassing that Mike Krzyzewski's trying to get college football to shut down because he's sucking?
He's the biggest snake out there.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Did you see what Nate Oates, the Alabama head coach, said today?
No.
I'm now a fan of Nate Oates, and I didn't know who Nate Oates was until I Googled it, but he basically called Coach K out.
Nice.
So I'm looking for the exact quote, but it was basically, do you think Coach K would be asking to stop the season if he hadn't have lost 2 of 3 games? He said, do you think Coach K would be saying that if he hadn't lost 2 non-conference games at home? Pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
he's right.
By the way, our good friend Jeff Capel wants to shut the season down too.
I wouldn't be able to see that. I'm blocked on Twitter.
Who has blocked all of us on Twitter that work for Sooner Scoop.
I think he blocked Garen Emig as well.
That's so odd. I mean, I could
he blocked everybody on the OU beat.
I could see why he blocked me, just because I was one of the ones that broke he was getting fired. But
I was always a big Tiny Gallon fan. I don't know what I did to him.
I mean, you talk about bringing in bad kids. He would bring in anyone as long as they had a McDonald's All-American jersey in their closet.
Well, he blocked me, and I think we all know how much basketball I talk.
That's weird.
Like,
someday we'll be able to write an entire book about Tommy Mason Griffin.
I would love to see.
Do you mean all his volunteer work?
I would love to see his tattoos right now, how they've progressed. He was the first neck tattoo wearer in Oklahoma sports history, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, that's a hell of a badge to carry, isn't it?
You know, I mean,
we all need trailblazers to look up to.
We got to have a leader.
Let me ask your opinion on something. And I'm sure, like, I don't know how Josh would feel about this. Are you are either of you big into like buttercream icing, or do you have like hatred for it?
I'm not
No,
an icing.
I like it fine. I'm not a big cake guy though. Like I don't do a lot of cupcakes or cakes in general. Like I want pie. If I'm going to do something like that, I want a pie.
I love cupcakes. I love birthday. I haven't had birthday cake in years and years. So I think I'm going to go get one today. Just a little one.
You deserve it. We should have led with that. It's Carey's birthday.
Oh!
And see, now I feel bad because like I brought it up, and I usually don't care.
Well, Eddie, did he send you the 3 different versions of his birthday wish list last week?
Yeah.
Of the things he wants? Yeah.
Was kind of it's on the way.
My Amazon wish list.
Yeah, I mean, that one bidet is really over the top, but, whatever.
I don't need another bidet because I got one of the best ones. I didn't get the Japanese one like Gabe Eichert has, but I got a pretty good one.
So my buddy, I was talking to him right before we went on.
A real person?
That might be racist.
So, he asked me to make sure that, if this was going to be like a 3-spray day for you, like you give yourself a little extra love on your birthday there, Carey.
No, but I have gone today, and it was lovely. And, I don't have to worry about toilet paper. I know that's becoming a shortage issue again with certain brands. But not for me. I don't have to worry about it. I'm
Love
good.
It.
So, by the way, Josh, Christmas cards in the mail yet?
No, we haven't even taken the picture yet.
Oh, man.
This may...
Andy Leibowitz hasn't returned your call yet?
It may be New Year's cards, this year. We're not sure. I usually take the picture, or I guess I have the last couple years. But we may just end up using the ones from our little photo shoot a couple weeks ago that you guys saw. So, I really hate to kill the anticipation for you guys of seeing what the picture is going to be, but I think that's the way that may be. So, sorry, guys.
Is everybody now at the age where someone just randomly asks what your address is, and you're just like, oh, shit?
Yeah. We've had to send it a lot lately. And guys, I don't know about you, but every time we move, and obviously we've done it twice this year, there's always something you forget to change the address on, and you're like, shit, you got to contact somebody. And this hasn't been bad because our landlord of the house we rented he was a pretty good guy. He's fine to deal with. When you sell a house, you're like, I don't ever want to go back there. Like, I don't ever want to see the people I sold this to. If there's something they found that they're not happy about, I don't care. I don't want to talk about it. And so, like, our realtor, he probably had to go back 3 different times because we closed like Easter weekend. So it was like right at the start of COVID, and we had ordered our passports to be renewed. Well, it took them like 5 months. Well, by the time it got back, we were gone. So he had to go back and get our passports for us. It was a debacle.
Well, I'm sad to know that my Christmas card is not on the way because I've saved all of them from you. I have. I really have.
Tiffany was moved by that, and then I told her you save all of them, and then she didn't feel quite as great.
Well,
about it.
I mean, nieces and nephews and best friends and coworkers. How about that?
Okay, sure enough, sure. What do you do with Eddie's? What do Eddie's look like?
Eddie's never sent me a Christmas card. I don't know if he's ever made any before.
Eddie, you prick.
I send out holiday cards.
Is it like a picture of Tom Holiday on it, or what are we talking about here?
Well, everybody doesn't celebrate Christmas. It's 2020. We don't want to be offensive.
Oh, you're being progressive. That's always been something I've noticed about you, Eddie.
Right.
Yep. Very thoughtful of other people.
Cards last year, and then I got to the ordering portion of it, and it was like $80. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to do that.
Yeah, that's going to be
And then you
got to
put stamps on them and put them in the post office box.
Honestly, that's probably my biggest thing is like I don't want to have to get everybody's addresses, so I just do away with it. It's kind of like addresses. I think one day are going to be like the home phone; they're just going to be done away with at some point.
I was wondering this the other day because I'm replacing all the switches and light switches and outlets in my house, Like when they build new house, like you have a new house, do they even put phone lines through houses anymore?
Yes, they do. Well, I guess Josh could tell us. I mean, he just built a house.
Yeah, I mean it's like there, but it's not like it's done strictly to the use of other things. Like our whole house they were far more concerned about where to put like coax or Ethernet, like Ethernet lines and stuff like that, instead of where are we going to put a phone line? Because I don't think now they are here. Like I know you could wire it, but we don't have a phone jack anywhere in this house.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was wondering that.
I really hadn't thought of it until you said that, but that's exactly right.
The big phone has really fallen on hard times, I guess. All right. So no West Virginia this weekend. Signing day coming up on Wednesday. Let me ask you this, Josh. Having no game this weekend, do you think that could help Oklahoma just because they can concentrate more on Zooms with kids?
I would think that has a very positive impact. Now, the problem is going to be you've got Tristan Lee at Florida, so, I mean, how much is he going to be able to do? Camar Wheaton is a ghost. He doesn't actually exist, I think, except on a football field each week. And then, so you do have Bryce Foster, and then Savion Byrd, who's going to be, both playing in their own playoff games this weekend as they get started at the big school level for the state of Texas. So, I mean, I don't think there's any question they are going to – I will be interested to see if they kind of create something, like some kind of final push here where they say, okay, we don't have to do all the West Virginia content, all that other stuff. Let's get moving with this. And maybe they create something extra for signing day, and something they were going to use on signing day gets pushed a couple days early. It'll be interesting, but I guarantee they will do what they can with this time. And I bet you're starting to see it a little bit. I bet you see some more 2022 offers start going out.
The 21 classes, obviously, and we've been talking about it, it's basically wrapped up. You got the 5-star kids out there that are going to make the decisions, but we've had some national content running this week on Sooner Scoop just as far as 2022 and what Oklahoma, preliminary is doing with the 4 commitments already on the offensive side of the football. Josh, it seems like that 2022 class, when you put together what they're doing on the field defensively, they could make that jump in 2022 with defensive guys, right?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, you look at
Kobe
what
McKenzie, obviously, in 22.
Yeah, yeah. You start with Kobe, and then you consider Oklahoma's a heavy leader for Gentry Williams right now. I think they're a heavy leader for Gabe Dindy, the big Rivals 100 defensive lineman from Florida. I think they lead for Tyson Ford, who I've talked to recently, and we'll actually have some in the scoop about. But I think he is very close to a decision, maybe in the next 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. I mean, I think that could be coming. And then the other is Keithian Alexander, the Bear from Denton Ryan, that obviously plays with Billy Bowman, and I think has really built a good relationship with Calvin Thibodeau. So you talk about those. If Oklahoma, you go get a Christian Driver at safety, you find another corner in this class. I mean, you don't have to get real far down the road for Oklahoma to have not just one of the better defensive groups in the last, few years for them, but probably one of the better defensive classes in the whole country for 2022.
And kudos, I guess we should point it out to Calvin Thibodeau. I mean, he's up for the Broyles Award, which an incredible job with that defensive line, despite people that have tried to slander his name, basically.
Yeah, it's impressive. I wonder how that plan is going to work to fire him, because it was just a 1-year deal, and then they were going to get rid of him. It's going to be tough to do coming off a Broyles nomination, but I'm sure that's still in the plans. I'm sure that's going to happen.
Classic.
All right. Look, we'll keep an ear to the ground. Stay on Soonerscoop.com. We'll see if Ryan Day makes that call.
Yes.
And I don't think you have to worry about it. I think Oklahoma's just going to hang out and sit at home this weekend. I think Ohio State will do the same.
I don't need this right now. All this damn negativity.
But
if
you think
Ryan
I'm being
Day
negative?
was a real writer, he would take a screenshot of his phone that he called Norman, Oklahoma.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be good. Very good. Because it would just show Lincoln Riley, wouldn't it? It wouldn't show his number.
I'm looking. Yeah, I think so.
Well, Lincoln Riley, if Lincoln Riley was in his phone, yeah, it would.
I wonder if he has his number. Maybe somebody needs to step up and facilitate it, I guess.
Who would have both of their numbers? You know who could get both of their numbers? Baker. Surely Baker, with all the Ohio connections, he'd get Ryan Day's number in about a second.
I could get his number from Kevin Wilson.
Carey. You know, the one media member they're going to allow in the stadium, it's going to be the guy who facilitated, who made it happen.
I'm going to text Kevin Wilson right now as we're talking. Here, let me. Kevin Wilson. Game day in Columbus for OU this week. Sent. Okay, we'll see if he responds. I talked to him this year at some point in the preseason.
We can't talk about Kevin Wilson at this time of the year without thinking of the great airport standoff.
Yeah, it was
an all-time story.
It made my heart hurt to see Shane Beamer on an airport tarmac. I mean, like all the things we've lost in 2020, I miss airport tarmac. I miss coach searches. I miss those are some of my favorite moments being in this profession. The Brent Venables Clemson stakeout at Wiley Post.
I mean, that's one of those things, though, isn't it? That like it's fun, it's exhilarating. It's also a lot of work, though, too, like the coaching searches and stuff like that.
If Kevin calls me, should I put it on the air?
Yeah,
I'd get in a lot of trouble for doing that.
Yeah, that's okay.
But he seems so mild-mannered. I'm sure he'd take it fine.
Carey, what did you think of the South Carolina move for Beamer? That all kind of came together relatively pretty quickly. I know that you did a podcast with the Rivals guys from South Carolina. Are they? I mean, it seems like the former players are really excited about that.
Yeah, you know, their whole. It was interesting to kind of get their take on what they're looking for from Shane Beamer. And what's interesting is, they're hoping that they're getting a piece of Lincoln Riley more than a Beamer. To me, that was the whole line of questioning. It seems like that's what their fans are most interested in is he going to run Lincoln Riley's offense? And obviously Garrett Riley's name has been associated with that OC job. And I was on their board looking at stuff, and they were coming up with all these ideas like Garrett Riley could be the co-OC with this, stuff that fans do that's not really realistic. But yeah, Garrett Riley would never go somewhere where he was the co-OC. I mean, you're going to hire him. Lincoln Riley would do the same. He would never take a job where he wasn't completely in charge of the offense. I mean, and maybe they're that way because that's how Clemson works. And maybe they think that that's, what they need to do, or that's what successful programs do. But they were really interested in kind of the staff makeup that Lincoln Riley had, what type of coaches, what type of positions, all of that. And they were surprised by the whole 2 wide receiver coaches. And, I don't know what Lincoln will do. I mean, he hinted that maybe he'll shake things up a little bit and how his assistants are, built. I don't know if he would move someone or just have one receiver coach or how that would work out. But, I think it's a good move for Shane Beamer because it's a Power 5 program. He's been there. He knows what it's all about. He's not going to be surprised by anything. And, you got to sink or swim at some point as a head coach, and he's been building toward this. So I think it's a good move. That's a place where, you have enough recruiting talent around you, and it'll be up to him to kind of, and I told them, what Shane Beamer learned most from Lincoln Riley probably was that practice and game days are number 1, but number 2 is recruiting above everything else. And that's boosters, that's media, that's, everything. I mean, Lincoln Riley placed recruiting on a higher level than Bob Stoops ever did, and that's a big reason why he's so successful.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't. It's like one of those things you can't turn down an SEC job. I get that, but competing against Georgia and Florida in that division is just, it's a big ask, and I don't know what the realistic expectations are from a South Carolina fan base either. I just from the outside looking in, I would think that's a fan base that probably thinks that they're a little bit in a better position than they really are. I don't know. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough job for anybody, but I think the thing about Shane Beamer is, and that's what I told.
It's going to be a who's who staff.
Yeah,
he'll
be able. He has so many connections in coaching, whether that's tapping into Bud Foster, whether it's tapping into his father, whether it's tapping in, to everywhere he's been, Oklahoma, Georgia, and I'm not saying he would pull OU assistants. That was the worry I know on the board from the beginning. But if you pull a Garrett Riley as your offensive coordinator and you're successful, like that's the best you could hope for in, having taken that Oklahoma job.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Oklahoma does. And you're right. It almost feels like Riley, and he was asked about it again on Tuesday as far as replacing Beamer. Don't you think that they wait and kind of see where all the the dust settles, I guess, as far as if they lose anybody else, and then you go in and kind of rework it? I mean, I know that we've thrown out like those 4 names that seem to be the most popular, and 3 of them with connections back to Oklahoma, and John Cooper, Joe John Finley, and Sharon Moore. But I don't know. It seems like they might maybe wait through this next week, but then you roll right back into the bowl season. It's going to be kind of strange how it all goes down.
It's interesting because Lincoln Riley has. Speaking of landlines,
I was like, that was so foreign to my ears. Thought I was at a car dealership all of a sudden or something.
See, I only have that because of the studio. But with Lincoln Riley, he's brought in his own guys, and Dennis Simmons, and then Shane Beamer was his. Jay Boulware was already here. So was, even though he's worked with Bill Beedenbow, he was here already. Cale was here already. And then it was kind of all Mike's guys and Bob's guys, and now it's Grinch's guys. But, like, Calvin Thibodeau is an OU guy. Cale Gundy's an OU guy. DeMarco Murray's an OU guy. At what point does he kind of branch out a little bit and not just bring in an OU? That's why I'm wondering, like, is John Cooper or Joe John Finley or Sharon Moore, are they really legitimate candidates, or their names just coming up because they make a lot of sense because they're OU guys?
Yeah. I was, I guess, not surprised, but Joe John Finley's done a damn good job of getting tight ends and having them produce. I mean, you look at the guys that he's had at all 3 stops in the SEC, they've had at least one guy that has kind of been a dude for them.
Missouri and Ole Miss both had really good tight ends, yeah.
Yeah, and the Ole Miss kid right now that he's coaching is, I believe, 2nd on the team in receptions.
Well, he's at A&M though, right? Isn't Joe John? Isn't Joe John at A&M?
He was at A&M. He was only there for a year. Joe John's at Ole Miss now.
Okay. He's
working with Lane Kiffin.
Interesting.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens there, though. It's good for Shane Beamer, though. It's like selfishly, I wanted to see him have one more run with OU, but I mean, pretty damn good job, and I'm definitely going to hit him up next time I'm in out at Augusta, try and play with him.
And let me say this about like Joe John and John Cooper too. Like those guys really worked to get into this profession. Like people always talk about, I mean, there's some former players, they're like, yeah, I want to be into coaching, but they don't go through. It's like, I remember Derek Strait came back. Remember that? He's like, yeah, I'm going to get into coaching. And I think he did it for a little bit. He's like, yeah, this sucks, man. That's too much work for not enough money. And I think a lot of those guys, they don't go through the struggle, but both, Cooper, he was a GA, he was a OC, he was trying to get, the thing is that people don't want to hear this, like they're really close with Jeff Lebby, both Joe John and Coop. But Cooper's really worked hard to get into coaching, and he got that break with Sam Pittman getting the Arkansas job and hired him. So these are guys that do the work. I mean, they are hardcore. They're in it to coach. They're not in it for the fame or the money. Like, they just love coaching. So I don't know how good either one of them would be as recruiters. That would be the biggest question. But I know when Coop got that Arkansas job, he called me and just said, hey, if you see anybody, just let me know, because we're really looking for people. And so, I mean, he's definitely grinding.
I know that everybody plays a little bit of a hand in special teams, and I know that Ryan Doherty does a lot down there in Norman right now with special teams. But do you think that this hire would have to be somebody that has some type of special teams-esque background?
I think so, but then, Cale has a lot of background in special teams.
Well, and there's rumors about Cale out there, which, I'll be honest, guys, that doesn't make any sense to me. And it's not to say that I don't think that Cale would do a good job. It just, why now, I guess?
But it's the same thing. It's the Beamer, just like with Beamer, it's the Lincoln Riley effect. People want people who work for Lincoln. It's just like Zach Taylor, the reason he's got a head coaching job in the NFL. Who else came from the McVay tree that's out there? Zach Robinson's now with him. That was at Pro Football Focus.
Well, guys, wouldn't you say that the Beamer thing, does that make Cale feel a little more like, okay, if I don't do this now, when am I going to do it? Or I'm just going to be an OU assistant forever. And I'm not even saying Cale's against that idea, but if he wants to be a head coach at some point, it feels like he's going to have to step out of Norman.
Yeah, and I've talked to Cale about that before, and he said, yeah, I want to be a play caller someday. I would love to be a head coach like my brother. Like, he has those aspirations, but he's also, been happy. His family's, gone to school here. They've grown up here. His wife's got a nice career here. He's, when I talk to guys like Blake Bell, and, hanging out with him and like Gabe or something and Austin Woods, like, they could not speak more highly of Cale Gundy. And just the fact of what he does for those guys that are GAs and, gives them odd jobs and helping him out with like house sitting and things like that. Like, he's a guy's guy. He's a dude. They all love him. So, he's very comfortable just being an assistant at Oklahoma. He enjoys that life.
Yeah.
Yeah. After the last couple of years, I guess I've just almost become, comfortable with the idea that Cale was going to be a lifer and that he didn't want to branch out. But when you say that, Carey, I remember he said that in the past, that he wants to be a play caller. And I remember thinking how surprising that was at the time. Wasn't that at one of the playoffs?
I think it was the Georgia Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know. It's going to be kind of interesting. I mean,
But like I said on the board, I'm sorry. Like I said on the board, it seems like Mark Stoops it doesn't seem like that's a good fit. If you want to bring in, it seems like Mark Stoops is only looking at Lincoln to try and appease someone besides himself, because he's so conservative. Compared to Bob, he's very conservative.
Yeah, they've never opened up that offense at any point ever. And
although Terry Wilson can come back next year.
You're just appealing to me on all my levels now. I love some Terry Wilson.
He's good, man, when he's healthy.
Yeah, he can't ever stay healthy. And part of that's the style he plays and the style of offense they run. They put him in harm's way a lot.
So, sorry, Eddie, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, you're good. That's a good way to finish.
All right, no game with West Virginia. Thank God we did the pod when we did, so I'm sorry it's a day late, but at least it's not old news like it would have been had we done it yesterday. Still have not heard back from Kevin Wilson. So
he must be already. He probably has no time. He has to game plan for Alex Grinch, I guess.
He's scheming it up right now.
He probably is. It's probably what's going on. No,
probably halfway through the South Dakota State game.
Trust me,
Missouri State
guys. Okay, I'm working. You guys, Eddie or Carey, finish the pod. I'm going to tweet out breaking news. We're hearing OU and Ohio State are playing. So I got it.
Make sure you add a link. Let's make some money off of it.
People have been fired for that kind of thing, Josh.
Ho.
just came out. OU opens as a 5-point favorite against Iowa State.
Stop it.
No, Iowa State. Iowa State.
Oh, Iowa State. Okay. I definitely think Ohio State would be a favorite. I would say 6.
Yeah, that's about right. I was saying 6 or 7. Ohio State's a little better team than Oklahoma is. They just are.
Would love to see OU's defense, see what they can do against them, though.
I would too. I think that would be a litmus test.
They're not
you really get a feel for where they are.
The one thing about Ohio State, they're not great at running back. Who's the guy that starts over Sermon? He's got a great name.
Major. What is it? Something. It's something.
Is it Major Teague or something like that?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. I mean, dude, come on, that's right out of a cartoon. Master Teague.
Master Teague. Yes,
that's what it is.
Great name. But yeah, they're not great at running back. I mean, they're great at receiver though, and they're great at quarterback.
Yep.
I would love to see what Garrett would do against OU's defense.
I will say from here on out, and Josh, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but doesn't it feel like just as a whole with the Oklahoma season, the way that things are progressing, and if you can win another Big 12 championship, you get to a New Year's Day Bowl, the best case scenario for them is to go win-win and go into an offseason in which you have probably the highest expectations for a team going into 21 than they've had in 4 or 5 years. Is that the best case scenario?
Heading into next year,
class in 21.
Yeah,
I guess what I'm saying is I'm with you on the idea of what you said a couple years ago. This team probably doesn't need to go to a playoff. I think winning a bowl game and going into an offseason with not that negativity that comes from, and maybe they could win a playoff game. I don't know, but it feels very important, especially this year going into the offseason, that they have some good momentum. And I think that you can build that with Caleb Williams and everybody else that he will be bringing in. I don't know. It just feels like a win-win to end the season would be a major positive for OU.
I agree completely because, you start talking about it because, is there going to be a season, guys, that's more anticipated than this 2021 season just because of the chance that we all get to go back to something normal that looks like a normal football season, looks like a normal football game? We don't know, but I think that's everybody's hope, and it seems a reasonable one to me. So it feels like almost immediately, the second whatever this season ends once it's over, the top 25 for next year is going to go crazy. You're going to have all this explosion, and I think you're going to also have such an interesting dynamic of these guys deciding to come back or going pro, or which guys just decide, for lack of a better example, like an Eric Swinson. Is he going to come back? He can, but does he want to?
He addressed that this week. He said he hadn't decided yet what he's going to do.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas Rodney Perkins said, "I just want to put more on film."
Yeah. I think that put that to bed. But yeah, so I do, and I think if you could have some momentum, especially like I said, I think the best case scenario in the world for Oklahoma is you play in the Cotton Bowl, you play Texas A&M probably. It's going to be a heck of a game. If you could come out with a 27-24 win or whatever, hey, then not only have you entered on a win, but against one of your primary recruiting, opponents, you've gotten a win on a neutral field. So there's all this momentum you can build there. If it's Florida, that's fine. But I think Texas A&M and a win, of course, is the dream scenario. You lose that game, then all these things are in reverse for you. So, I've said it for a couple of years now. 2021 feels like the year this has all been building to me. Now, there's going to be some pieces you just don't know. Obviously, I think, like we've just said, Ronnie's going to be gone, Ramondre Stevenson. There's question marks, but there is a lot coming back in 2021, even if they didn't have the ability to just say 2020 doesn't count.
All right. I think that's a good place to end. All right. Thanks a lot to Bob Prisbillo, who had to run. Thanks to Josh and Eddie for being a part of this, and glad we could get the pod out when we did. Don't forget to check out Dead Soxy, DEAD, SEXY.com, and take advantage of that holiday promo that they're running. It's not the Bedlam special that we once had that was a great promo that you guys did a great job supporting, but enter that promo code Holiday Pro, and you will get a 35% discount. Do it quickly so you can get those great Dead Soxy Christmas gifts. So thanks to everybody for listening. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com.